If you get offended easily, you're probably going to want to click off this video right now, so I'll give you the opportunity to do so. For anyone that has stayed, then I hope this video gives you more clarity at the current state we are in. Let me take you back to a time when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, struggling in school. As many of you know, I was that shy, skinny, insecure, weak, both physically and mentally, young boy, if you could call it that. I would not call myself a man. And I just remember struggling so much. If anyone said anything to me, I would get immediately offended. It would hurt me so bad, I'd probably start crying, just like a little girl. And naturally, I began to grow up. I began to get to around 16, 17, 18, and then it didn't hurt as much. And I thought this was quite natural. A lot of people would grow up naturally, surely. But I learned as I got a bit older that this wasn't necessarily the case. And along with many other life lessons that you probably know yourself that I've been through over the last 2 to 3 years, I had to grow, I had to develop. But unfortunately for a lot of people around me, a lot of people that I see on a day-to-day basis, I cannot say the exact same has happened to them. Personally, I always feel that I have got to a point now where there's not really a lot that can break me, especially mentally. Of course, I have my days where I'm not feeling too good. People might say something, especially with the type of content that I'm producing. It can be quite controversial to a lot of people. So I get the odd hateful comments from some smelly old man who hates his life and wish he took some action, but it's too late for him now, or someone that just refuses to listen to self-improvement or just doesn't want to know about it, doesn't want to hear about it. And that will hurt for maybe 30 seconds, and then it'll be like, okay, move on. Okay, you have to feel sorry for these guys. And this is a quick tip before I get onto the main kind of content of this video, that if you are doing something like YouTube, content creation, or just posting on social media, even if that's just a casual basis, then if you get any hateful comments, you have to put yourself in their shoes, I guess, and be like, wow, I wouldn't want to be this guy. Like, you have to think about how down bad this guy or maybe woman is for them to post such a hateful comment on your post, whatever it may be, on social media. There's a lot of people out there like this, unfortunately, and as I will mention in this video, I think this is only going to get worse over the next few years. So you have to feel sorry for these guys. But why is everyone in our generation become so weak, such a snowflake, so to speak? A lot of people might not even like the thought of me saying that term. And I think that there's two main things I want to talk about. And as you can guess, I don't want you to bore you to death with it too much, but the only place we can possibly start is social media. And my mum has always said that social media has a lot to answer for. And she is exactly right. And why is this the case? Well, a lot of people don't know how to use social media effectively. For me personally, I first started using social media back when I was 13, 14, maybe even a bit younger, 12, 13, in school. I think it was start of year 7, maybe end of year 6, where you started using, I think the first thing I might use was something called like BBM, which was like it was kind of like Snapchat, and yeah, you would kind of just talk to people, your friends, and there'd be kind of like for a rate and all of this stuff that you might remember if you're a similar age to myself. And yeah, ever since then I've used social media, and up until I started posting on YouTube, I didn't use social media effectively. I just used it like everyone else. I would waste a lot of time. And then I started discovering obviously this type of content and learning that this probably was not the best thing for me, particularly if I've got big goals, to be scrolling on social media, wasting a lot of time. And I managed to get to a decent point in my social media consumption, so to speak, if you want to call it that. And yeah, I feel like I could still use social media a lot better. But I see a lot of people these days have 6-7 hours of screen time, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But that's quite normal for a lot of people. If you speak to kind of an average person, particularly like a university student, for example, in the UK, you ask them what their screen time is, it will be around 6 hours or so. It's almost guaranteed. A lot of people waste time on stuff like apps like Snapchat and TikTok, where there's no value whatsoever on here. And I always say to people, if you are not looking to produce something on social media, if you're not looking to kind of start an online business or use social media as kind of a stream, a funnel to better your life in any way, then why bother using social media? Because for me personally, I think in the next few years, once I've kind of got my message across, done what I want to do with social media, then I will take a step back. Like when I'm not producing content any longer, whenever that may be, it might be a lot longer. I'm not going to put a time scale on it. I don't mind doing that, but there will be a time where I want to take a step back from social media, start a family, and doing all this, the kind of settling down kind of lifestyle. And when that time comes, I won't want to be on this. I won't want to be scrolling. I won't want to be having all these things that are negatively affecting my mental health. And one of the main points that a lot of people struggle with is comparison on social media. And I've always remembered this quote quite vividly in my mind, which is, comparison is the thief of joy. And this is so true. Whenever I'm comparing myself to someone who may be doing a bit better than me in my life, or maybe they're just doing something that I'm like, oh, that would be quite cool. He's traveling, or he's got this amount of subscribers, he's making this much money online. I wish I was there. I'm not there. And I'll be like, okay, I need to work harder. I need to do this, which can be good in some ways. I think obviously competition in ways, it can be healthy if you've got good peers around you. But you always have to remember you are on your own journey, and that's the only journey that matters. You shouldn't be comparing yourself to all these other people out there who have been on completely different paths to you and are probably on completely different trajectories from you as well, which is very important to remember. And a lot of people are so bad at doing this, comparing themselves to other people who they're just not similar. And obviously social media, you see that highlight reel on their Instagram, on their TikTok, on whatever, YouTube, all of this stuff, and you're like, oh, he's living the life, she's living the life, he's travelling around, he's hopping from one country, he's in Dubai this week, he's in Thailand, he's in Bali, all of this stuff, he's travelling around on a laptop, well, I'm doing a job I hate, and all of this stuff. And it's so bad for us. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, you can think all of this stuff, but it doesn't change anything, does it? You're the only one who can change that for yourself. And that's why I think, if you can, I would honestly get rid of social media out of your life. And the next reason, the two kind of pillars of social media for me, why it is so bad, is that we are less social than ever before. We are in this world of social media that's meant to make us more connected than ever before. And in some ways, yes, that is true. We could message anyone in the world and connect and try to connect with them, and it has a lot of benefits. Like I say, don't get me wrong, social media has a lot of benefits when used effectively, but a lot of people, 99% of people, don't know how to do this. And when it comes to social skills, a lot of people my age, and if I speak to anyone younger, 1, 2, 3, I see the younger they are, the worse social skills they have. That's pretty much the trend, I would say. And I really do worry for these younger guys, because obviously I know, being a shy, introverted kid, struggling with confidence growing up, I always struggled with this. And social media was a part of my life growing up, which obviously negatively impacted. I didn't have to put myself out there, which I'm trying to make up for lost time now, and put myself into uncomfortable situations, especially socially, which I've done over the last few years, to force myself to grow, to become more social, to develop skills which are so key for our lives. There's no getting away from that. We are social creatures, and we need to be able to communicate and interact with other humans effectively. That's basics, everything we need to do when it comes to your job, career, relationships, anything in life. You need to be able to communicate effectively. And no one does that. And I know there is a lot of people out there who are sick of the modern world, are sick of the propaganda that is pushed in your face, whether that be through the news, media, social media, other people that you speak to who have their own agenda, whatever it may be. And for me personally, I love to speak to people who are a bit older than me, a lot more wiser, because I don't think of myself as an intelligent guy whatsoever. I don't think I'm very intelligent at all. But one thing that makes me a bit more intellectual, so to speak, is that I've learned that learning from other people who are more intelligent than me is way more important than me trying to develop my intelligence or do things a bit differently. Having people around me, I try and have everyone that's around me who is someone I want to be more like. It doesn't just have to be on an intellectual basis or intelligence, but they've got a trait that I would like to develop more. And everyone that I speak to says similar things. When I speak to these older people who are a lot more wiser, they've been around the block a lot more than me. Everyone is too soft. No one wants to work anymore. You can't say anything anymore without it offending everyone. Everyone is just weak and a snowflake. These are all things that I hear regularly, and you probably hear them yourself too. Are they wrong? Are these people wrong? I don't think so. I think they've got a very valid point. I personally do kind of like that attitude of just kind of get on with it, so to speak. But when you tell someone, just get on with it, just you want to do this thing, well, you're going to have to put the work in. You can't really say this anymore without people be like, oh, think about your mental health. We all know mental health is very important, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are using it as a cope and something to get away. Or maybe not doing a job, not doing work, not pursuing something because it's easy to blame it on this. And it gets called toxic when you're like, oh, just get on with it, just be a bit more of a man. Honestly, I feel like if that attitude, we had a bit more of that, people would achieve a lot more and probably would be happier than this kind of soft and be like, oh, you don't need to do it today, just there's another day. If you're not feeling up for it, don't worry about it. You don't need to go to the gym today, you don't need to work on your career, you don't need to do that. You can just if you're not feeling it, just don't do it. I just don't think that is a good attitude to have for anyone, particularly a young man. I don't think they should be having this kind of spoon fed down them. And it's quite funny because I kind of got this video when I was working my part-time job, and we had some training the other day, and this guy we had the training with was a lot older. He must have been 75 years old, and he was obviously mentioning a lot of this stuff, how everyone is very weak these days, snowflakey. And he was saying, back in my day, I would be working 16 hours a day. I'd be outside. It'd be like minus 20 degrees in the UK, Celsius, by the way, for anyone in the US, which is absolutely freezing. He's probably exaggerating, of course, some of this, but it's going to be somewhat accurate. You'd have a fry up, like a full English breakfast, all of that, and then go back, and then go to the pub, have pints. And that would be his days, 5 days a week. He'd do that. A lot of people would do that. If you kind of speak to your grandparents, that probably would resonate with them. And am I saying this is a good life? Because I know a lot of people be like, yeah, but you wouldn't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that. Honestly, no, it doesn't appeal to me at all. I'm not a fan of drinking. I don't think we should be working 16 hours a day. I don't think we should be working outside. Probably not in minus 20 degrees. Rules were a lot different, and a lot of things have changed for the better, including our safety and all of this stuff, but a lot of stuff have definitely changed for the worse. But what I'm saying with this guy is that life was just a lot more simple those days, and people overall were probably a lot happier. You didn't hear everyone saying I'm depressed, and they didn't not turn up to work, did they? When their life was so much harder. Whereas nowadays we have life easier than ever before. Everything is convenient, everything is accessible. We can do whatever we want. We could be on a plane and we can be in Australia in a day. We could order food right now and it will come 20, 30 minutes later. We don't have to hunt for our food. We can work from a laptop and make millions of pounds. We don't even have to go and speak to girls in person. We have dating and all of this stuff. I think we all know that this stuff is making things worse. It's getting a sedated version, which we don't actually want. It's not actually good for us at all. And I remember the night after deciding I'm going to make this video, I was actually watching this film. Anyone from the UK who's into football, you'll probably know this. It's a film called Green Street, which is kind of a football hooligan film, which is probably going to be quite hard to explain to anyone if you're not a fan of kind of football or soccer for anyone in the US. I don't like saying that, but it's kind of like a gang, so to speak, of people who would go to football, watch the games, like to drink a lot, get into fights, all of that stuff. And there was this quote, and it went something like, once you've taken a few punches and realise you're not made of glass, you don't feel alive unless you're pushing yourself as far as you can. And that was a quote, I just remember watching that part of the video and being like, that's such a good quote. And it really resonated with me personally, and it might with you too. Because I feel not just from a physical aspect, obviously the film was fighting, so it was a lot more being punched and like, okay, let's see how far I can take this. But I look at it more from like a mental kind of fatigue, so to speak, way. Physically, I've taken them. I've been involved in fights when I was younger, and more, like I say, mentally, I've took those over the last few years. And when you're on this kind of journey of growing yourself, you're like, okay, I've done this a few times before. I've leveled up my life in a lot of different areas. For example, going to the gym, building the body, being able to speak quite confidently, improving my looks. I'm like, okay, let's do it with YouTube. Let's kind of grow an online business. Let's see what else we can do. And once you have more evidence to prove that you can do these things, you're like, well, I can probably do that too. It might not be so good for you. You don't want to become too arrogant, obviously, so to speak. If you be like, oh, I must be good at this. Like, I feel like some people think they're good at a lot of things, and then they feel like they have to get involved with everything. For example, you see a lot of kind of famous people get involved in politics, which I don't think is probably a good idea at all. But I feel like from a growth point of view and for yourself, that is where you feel the best. You're in that state where you're like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm seeing progress in this. I could probably do it in that. I could probably do it in this. I can do it in my fitness, I can do it in my relationships, I can do it in my business. And I believe that more people need to go with this attitude in modern day life, in this so risk adverse society that we are living in, that you need to go and suck it. Go start that business and just suck it. Go to the gym and let everyone laugh at you. Go approach that girl and get rejected. All of this stuff that we need to do more of is so important. And I'm very concerned, as I mentioned previously, that we are going down a slippery slope in terms of our modern day generation, particularly young men. For example, porn, masturbation, mention this a lot in videos. It's only making things worse. It's only sedating men and making things a lot worse for ourselves. And I hope for you personally, you made it this far into this video. You're probably quite strong. You might not have liked some of the things I say. You might not agree with everything I say. But for everyone else that clicked off 30 seconds, then they're probably going to really struggle over the next 20 or so years with how things are going. I think times in some ways are only going to get harder, particularly for those kind of weak-minded people. So I hope for you, you will rise above and achieve what you want to do, because in a lot of ways we have so many more opportunities and life is actually easier. It's just having that mindset and just keep going when times do feel tough. That's what it's all about. I mentioned a lot about momentum. And as a wise David Goggins once said, stay hard as always. That's my video for today. One-to-one coaching link will be below. Like and subscribe, much appreciated. Have a great day.